My father's study smelled like leather and old paper. It was the kind of room where time seemed to move differently, where the rest of the world fell away and nothing mattered except the quiet, the books, and him. I'd loved this room since childhood. I loved it because he was in it. I was cleaning on a Saturday morning when he asked me to reorganize his desk. He was at the hospital. Dad had been working longer hours lately, performing surgeries until late evening, and I was home from college for the weekend. It seemed like a simple task. It wasn't. The desk was mahogany, old and solid, the kind of furniture that feels like it could outlast civilizations. There were the usual things: pens, papers, medical journals, bills. And then, tucked behind a loose panel at the back of the deepest drawer, I found a leather journal. Dark brown, worn, personal. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that even before I did it. But the handwriting on the first page was unmistakably his, my father's precise, careful penmanship, and my name was written there. My name, like it was meant for me to find. The entry started 23 years ago, before I was born. Margaret is pregnant. She says the baby is mine. I want to believe her, but I know the truth. I know what happened that night in March when I was working the overnight shift. She thinks I don't know. She thinks I'll never find out, but I know. My hands were shaking before I even understood what I was reading. I've decided I'm going to raise this child as my own. Not because I believe it's biologically mine, but because Margaret made a choice, and I'm making a choice too. I'm choosing to love this child before they're even born. I'm choosing to be a father in every way that matters. I sat down on the floor of Dad's study and kept reading. Entry after entry. Years of my father knowing. Years of him choosing to love me anyway. She's beautiful. I held her in the delivery room and I cried. Not because she's biologically mine, but because she's mine. She's my daughter in every way that counts. Today at the park, she called me Daddy. My heart nearly broke. I wonder if she'll ever know the truth. I hope she never does. I hope she grows up secure in the knowledge that she is loved, wanted, chosen. I saw the other man at the grocery store today. He was with his new family. He has no idea he has a daughter, and that's fine. That's the way it should be. I'm her father, not him, never him. I must have sat there for an hour reading entry after entry. The words blurred as tears streamed down my face. My entire identity was fracturing in real time. I was not my father's biological daughter, the man who had taught me to ride a bike, who had attended every recital, every game, every important moment of my life. He was not my biological father. But as I read deeper into the diary, I realized something more complex. He knew. He had always known. And he had chosen me anyway. The entries became less about the betrayal and more about his journey of acceptance, how he worked through his anger at my mother, how he decided that biology was irrelevant, how he fell in love with me before I was even born and never stopped. I realized today that I've spent so long protecting this secret that I forgot to just appreciate the gift of having her in my life. She's my daughter, not because of DNA, because of love, because I chose her, because I show up for her every single day. The hardest part isn't that she's not biologically mine. The hardest part is knowing that one day she might find out, and I'm terrified of what that will do to us. I sat on the floor of his study for hours. I didn't move. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there with the diary in my lap, trying to process the fact that my entire life was built on a secret my father had carried alone for 23 years. Before we continue, we would like to thank all of you who support us by subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. The only appreciation we ask of you is that you subscribe, like, and share this video if you are not yet one of our subscribers. Thank you. When Dad came home that evening, I was still in his study. He saw me there, sitting in his chair with his diary on the desk in front of me, and his face went completely white. "Sophie," he said, and his voice cracked on my name. "I can explain." "Is it true?" I asked. My voice was hollow. I felt hollow. He didn't answer immediately. He just sat down slowly like his body had forgotten how to move. "Yes," he finally said. "It's true." "For how long have you known?" "Since before you were born," he admitted. "Your mother told me. I had every right to leave, every right to walk away, but I didn't want to." "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out as a whisper. "Because you were my daughter. You were my daughter. Biology doesn't change that. Love doesn't change. And I was terrified that if you knew, you'd stop seeing me as your father." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time that day. I saw the fear in his eyes. The years of carrying this secret alone. The sacrifice of never telling me, of letting me believe a lie because it was safer for me. Who else knows? I asked. Your mother, and the other man, your biological father. He signed away all rights when you were born. He wanted nothing to do with you. He gave me permission to raise you as my own, legally and officially. You are my child in every way that matters. I need time, I said. I need to process this. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand. I'm so sorry, Sophie. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I didn't go back to college that semester. I couldn't. I told my parents I needed to take some time off, figure things out, deal with some mental health stuff. They didn't push. They understood, in the way that parents do when they know their child is breaking. The first few weeks were the hardest. I couldn't look at my father without feeling this strange mixture of gratitude and betrayal. He loved me. That was clear from every entry in the diary. But he had also lied to me my entire life. Or rather, he had allowed me to live in a lie by omission. I confronted my mother next. I went to her room one afternoon when Dad was at work and I showed her the diary. Did you think I'd never find out? I asked. She looked at the diary and then at me, and her expression was complicated. I hoped you wouldn't. I hoped you'd be safe in not knowing. That wasn't your choice to make, I said. No, she agreed quietly. It wasn't. But your father and I made the best decision we could at the time. We were young. I made a terrible mistake. And he chose to stay. He chose to love you. Don't underestimate what that cost him. Did he ever resent me? I asked. In all those years, did he ever wish he'd left? My mother shook her head firmly. Never. Not once. He loved you more than I've ever seen anyone love another person. He chose you every single day for 23 years. Over the following months, I went through a process of grieving. I grieved for the identity I thought I had. I grieved for the lie that had been my foundation. I grieved for the father I thought I knew, even though he was standing right in front of me, unchanged. But something shifted as I grieved. I started to understand what my father had been trying to express in his diary. Love isn't biological. It's a choice. It's a commitment. It's showing up day after day, year after year, even when it's hard. I started talking to a therapist. She helped me understand that my father had given me one of the greatest gifts imaginable. He had chosen me before I existed. He had made the conscious decision to love me despite the circumstances of my birth. Many children are biological but not loved, my therapist said. Your father is not biological but loves you completely. Which matters more? I didn't have an answer then, but I was starting to understand the question. Before we continue, we would like to thank all of you who support us by subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. The only appreciation we ask of you is that you subscribe, like, and share this video if you are not yet one of our subscribers. Thank you. About 6 months after finding the diary, I asked my father if we could talk. We sat in his study, the same place where I'd made the discovery, and I brought the diary with me. I've read this multiple times, I said. I've read every entry. And I need you to know that I understand what you did. I understand the sacrifice you made. My father listened, his eyes filled with unshed tears. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not hurt, I continued. I am. I'm hurt that I wasn't told. I'm hurt that my entire identity was based on a secret. But I'm also grateful. I'm grateful that you chose me, that you loved me before I was born and never stopped. He reached across the desk and took my hand. I'm sorry, Sophie, I'm so sorry. I know, I said, and I forgive you. Not because what you did was right, but because I understand why you did it, and because you did it out of love. He cried then. Really cried. And I cried with him, and we sat there in his study, two people holding on to each other while the weight of decades of secrets finally lifted. I decided to take a DNA test. I wanted to know who my biological father was, not because I wanted a relationship with him, but because I wanted to understand that part of my identity. The results came back with a match, a man in his 60s with no other relatives in the database. He was a stranger. He would probably always be a stranger, and that was okay, because I already had a father, the one who had chosen me. I went back to college the following semester. I changed my major to psychology, inspired by my desire to understand family dynamics and the science of love. I learned that attachment isn't determined by DNA. It's determined by presence, consistency, and unconditional love. Years have passed since finding that diary. I'm now in graduate school, studying family therapy. My father and I have a relationship that's more honest than it was before the discovery. We talk about the secret, about why he kept it, about what it means to him to have me in his life. He's read the diary since I found it. He was nervous about that. But I told him I wanted him to know that I understood, that I had read every word, and every word told a story of a man choosing to love unconditionally. The hardest part, he told me recently, was knowing that I might lose you if you found out. But the second hardest part was keeping it secret. I wanted to tell you so many times. I wanted you to know that you were chosen, that you were wanted so desperately that I was willing to raise someone else's biological child because I loved you. I know now, I said, and it changes nothing. You're my father, you always will be. I think about that diary often. I think about how my father's fear of losing me almost kept him from ever letting me know the truth. I think about how the secret he kept was meant to protect me, but it was also a burden he carried alone. Looking back, I realized that discovering I wasn't his biological daughter was one of the most profound gifts he could have given me, because it taught me that family isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about loving someone so completely that you are willing to sacrifice your own comfort for their well-being. My father didn't raise me because he had to. He raised me because he wanted to. And that makes him my father in every way that matters. The diary is still in his study, tucked behind the loose panel. But now we both know it's there. Now we both understand what it represents. A love story that transcends biology, a choice that defies convention, and a father who loved his daughter so much that he was willing to carry the weight of a secret for her entire life.